Hi there.
Hello.
How are you tonight? It's been a
Good.
while.
Yeah, 5 minutes, not very long.
No, since the last show we mean.
Oh, since the last show. Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
the last show.
absolutely. So, in honor of International Women's Day, which was celebrated yesterday, tonight we're going to discuss women in 2023. Are we still living in a man's world? Have women achieved equality? Or maybe we should start asking, have men achieved equality with women? Anyways, tonight we're joined by two guests, Elaine McDonald, an oft-elected city councillor, and Louise Langto, the current president of the Cornwall and District Labour Council, which is part of the Ontario Federation of Labour. So,
Welcome, ladies.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
So let's dive in, because we were talking about all this a bit backstage, as we do. Are women still living in a man's world in 2023?
Totally, absolutely, 100%. Yes. Men in society and in the workplace, everywhere in politics, they have long enjoyed a superior, dominant position with regard to women in similar roles. So your question is, you were being facetious when you asked if men had achieved equality. They have long fought to preserve equality. It's their brand, their version of equality, maybe.
Dominant.
I think they fought to maintain their superiority.
Superiority, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Louise?
No, I don't think that we're there for sure. I think there'd be progress in some areas and then there's slide back in other areas. You know, if you look at the United States today, the position of women is in a precarious position in many areas, and it's not getting better there. And I'm afraid that anything that influences the United States is going to influence Canada too.
Yeah, for sure.
Reproduction rights have been tampered with recently, and I was reading yesterday that Facebook is now going to hand the names and identities of people who are seeking abortions. So it's
Wow.
Wow.
so that was a regression in time, like.
Yeah.
And
Boycott of Facebook.
and today there was an article about Walgreens, which is a big pharmaceutical store, is refusing in California, is refusing to honor prescriptions for the morning after pill from doctors.
In California?
Yeah. Well, I think they might be doing it everywhere, but California is fighting back. They're saying that, they're going to recommend that people don't use Walgreens and, essentially boycott Walgreens because of this decision. But can you imagine that, a pharmacy deciding
No, I
not to
can't.
fill a prescription because they're,
Because they have an opinion.
Yeah, it's pretty scary because we did manage to progress a little, well, quite a bit since the 1950s or whatnot. But and they fought, like women fought so hard to achieve these milestones one little bit at a time, and then when you start regressing, it's just really discouraging and scary, downright scary.
Yeah, I have to say, Julie, on that point, you talk about how women are slowly making progress after fighting very hard.
Yeah.
The latest survey I read about the comparison between men's and women's wages, of course, in every area, men earn more, but they noted at the end that at the rate of our current progress, it will take 267 years for us to achieve equal pay.
Oh my goodness.
So the fight has to ramp up tremendously.
And I think maybe, oh, sorry.
Clarify something for me with equal pay, though. Like when we say that men make, I think it's a quarter more than women on the dollar, right? That factors in the fact that women have to take time off for maternity leaves and stuff, right? So it's not just over the course of a lifetime.
You think that would qualify for a reward rather than a penalty? You shouldn't be penalized for actually contributing to the nation's birthright. So employers
and creating taxpayers.
Yes. Yeah, employers should have policies that ensure that women aren't in fact penalized.
That's one of the reasons that there was a movement in some of the states in the United States to have openness in what wages people are paid for, so that if you're an engineer at this company and the guy sitting beside you is an engineer at your company, you should be able to know how much he's earning.
Yeah.
Because it's probably substantially more than you're earning if you're a woman.
Yeah.
For doing the same job.
Yeah.
And I know, people don't believe that, but it happens all the time. And sometimes once people get fired, they put their, because most of them have non-disclosure agreements in their contracts, right? So once they get fired, they put it on Facebook or something, and then people are like, well, how come he was making more than me? And that kind of thing. And if I can put in a plug for unions, that's something that unions have helped eradicate, because in unions, people are paid for the job, and whether you're a man or a woman, you have the same access to benefits and the same access to salary as men do. So maybe if we increase our rate of unionism, that might help a lot.
Yes, and every time you read a comparison of wages of men versus wages of women, they note that unionized women make up to 95% of what men, even outside of the union, make. So the union makes a huge difference. And this is why I think there's so much disparity in the States, because the States, unionization in the States has tumbled drastically, not just over the years and gradually, but I think when Ronald Reagan dealt with the strike of the air traffic controllers by firing them all, it was a tremendous hit to the union movement. And it kind of inspired a lot of other legislators too, who had the power to do what they could to dismantle the union movement in their states.
And you look at Wisconsin, where they passed the what they call the right to work, that people don't have to join a union even if the workplace is unionized. And that has meant, but the unions still have to provide services to those people who don't pay fees. So that's contributed to breaking the unions, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
But they're
obviously,
talking about repelling that because they have a Democrat government there now.
Yeah.
And they're talking about repelling that law.
You know, I heard today that so many of Trump's tax breaks and tax cuts that he put in place when he was in power, Biden is working to undo them, to bring back equity and fairness in the tax system. Good luck to him.
yeah, good luck to him.
Yeah.
Good luck to anybody trying to do it here as well. I mean, the
And
system is totally skewed in favor of people who are very, very wealthy.
Mhm.
And it's getting
Absolutely.
more so in Ontario.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
they're working very hard at eliminating the middle class.
True. Yeah.
So I want to hear from Mylise. She hasn't talked. She hasn't said a word yet. What do you think, Mylise? Are we still living in a man's world?
Well, in certain aspects, now that I'm listening to Elaine and Louise, yeah, there's a lot more than I was thinking before. But I mean, in my world, I don't feel that so much. But I mean, in politics and different careers and stuff, yes, I
Yeah.
do agree.
I think there's some good news in. I think, in fact, the younger generation, like my children, I think they have more equal marriages than maybe my generation did.
Oh,
You know, I think childcare is divided more evenly. I don't know about housework. I think, somebody was saying that the woman was saying that in her family, she is still the one that has to coordinate everything, that has to make sure, that there's someone to take her daughter to dance lessons and all those kinds of things. But I think it's a little bit more even in most, things than it was before. More fathers are taking paternal leave, depending on what their job is. We see, when I was, having children, it was very unusual for a man to take, a leave to take care of a child. And, but now it's, pretty commonplace that people will divide the leave or they'll reach those agreements. So I think in child rearing, there's more equality.
Yeah, I know with my daughter, she's 30 and her partner's, I think he's a little older, but they do things 50-50, including, like you say, the housework, the cooking, the taking the kids to different activities, all the school stuff. They just balance it out like that. So naturally, they do. So
Yeah.
And I think women have more control over their own money now too.
Yeah.
More women have their own, like it would be unheard of almost now for a woman not to have her own credit card. In middle class families and stuff like that, the women will have their bank accounts and credit cards. Often they will have their own accounts and they put money in the middle to pay for the household. So I think the way money is managed is more equal than it was maybe one or two generations ago. If you consider, my mother-in-law never knew how much her husband earned.
Wow.
That's crazy.
We were just discussing before the show. I was talking about how I think this is why, like, I'm a Gen X, right? And I think that's why I became so self-sufficient and like, I wear the pants in this house. There's no
she just said
there's no hiding it. I wear the pants in this house. I'll conform to some of the little gender, roles, but I mean, I wear the pants. But I remember my mother wanting to go get a job when I was a kid, and oh my God, that was like the scandal of the century. Like, my dad did not want her to be self-sufficient. He did not want her to earn her own money and be financially secure. I guess he was afraid that she would leave him, which she did after.
So
But,
she actually did go and get a job. You never finished the story. She did?
She did. I was about 7 years old, I think, when she finally got him to accept that she would get a job. And then by the time I was 11, they had divorced. So yeah, it opened her eyes, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, my dad was very much traditional. I'm from an Italian descent family, so the gender roles were very, very. So I guess seeing all this growing up kind of made me want to not be like that, right? And I think that's probably the case for a lot of my generation, anyways, because we're the generation where divorce started happening, right?
Yeah.
Like where women started to be their own people, their own
Mhm.
person, and yeah.
Yeah, well,
Hello?
yeah.
I think it's worth saying here, we'll probably say it a lot in the time coming, that right now I think a major, major battle is being fought by women in sport, being led by the Canada women's soccer team, the championships of the world, Olympic champions, and they have, well, they tried to strike, and so that they weren't going to go and compete in the latest competition they were in, and they were legislated that they had to play. They couldn't strike, so they did. They went and played, but they are right now. They're in Parliament. They're facing an all parliamentary committee, and they're bringing a petition to Parliament to fix Soccer Canada so that they have a fair share. They are making 1/5 of what the men's teams make. Their sponsorships are minimal. They're not getting the TV time. They're not getting the personal wages, but they're not getting the support either. When they go away to play, sometimes they go away without the tremendous resources that the men's teams have in terms of, the physiotherapists that go with you and all the coaching staff, the support staff that athletes need to perform well. And in spite of all that, the women are just, they're burning up the awards. They're succeeding so tremendously internationally. But here they are in front of Parliament talking about how discriminated against they are, to the point where Christine Sinclair, who I think she has been called, I know this, the greatest athlete in Canada right now, one of the people in the parliamentary precinct referred to her speech as having been bitching, referred to what Christine is bitching about now. It's so utterly sexist, and it's a put down. I mean, if a man were there testifying on his colleagues about their wage discrimination, people would respect that. But to think that she can be so publicly disrespected for fighting something that's just a question of basic fairness, it's appalling. And it just shows how much it is a man's world.
It's just a way to invalidate their requests and their point.
Yeah, sure.
The one good thing they have in the United States that they don't have in Canada is they have a law that in universities, sports, whatever they spend on men's sports, they have to spend an equal amount on women's sports.
Yeah, I think that's not just in universities. That's Title IX.
Yeah.
It's right across the country.
Yeah. So that's, I think, a very positive thing there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what does ideally equality, what does it look like? In a perfect world, what would being equal mean? And can we be equal? Like, I mean, there are physiological differences between men and women.
Yeah.
Is it possible to achieve equality?
So what? I'll tell you, equality, what it looks to me, should be, it's basically, it's respect across the board on both sides. It's equal treatment under the same circumstances, equal pay for the same job.
Mhm.
But it's also, some of it is, it becomes an attitude. You don't turn around and say, well, is this so and so bitching? Are you PMSing? Any of this stuff?
Don't get me started.
Crap.
Yeah.
It's equality of opportunity.
Yeah.
Huh?
Equality of opportunity.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that every woman wants to be a CAO or whatever. It means that, if if your desire is to be a stay-at-home mother, that society will respect that.
Mhm.
Or if your desire is to be an artist and not make a lot of money, you can be just as recognized as somebody who's running a company, or the bank manager.
Yeah.
And just that people are free to make the choices that they want in their lives. And if we look at the generation before me, in a family, a woman could afford to stay home with her children because the man earned enough money to do that. But today, in the middle class and below, people cannot afford to have a stay-at-home parent for the child if that is what they wish, because there's just not enough money. The middle class is shrinking and disappearing. The salaries have not kept pace with the cost of living. All of those things mean that women and men who want to stay home with their children and do that kind of nurturing, and they virtually cannot do that.
Yeah.
True.
And when you first asked your question, what equality looks like, Julie, I wasn't sure what I thought it would look like. I was trying to picture it. And then somebody said equal opportunity. And it strikes me that I think in my vision of a world in which the genders are equal, everybody has the same opportunity and people can just focus straight ahead and go forward and not worry about any sideways battles, like not get deflected by, somebody trying to trip you up from beside you, that the way ahead of you is absolutely clear and you can go as far as you want to and as far as your own talents and capabilities can take you without having to fight sort of side battles, just to be able to maintain your footing where you are. And that happens.
What about equal representation? Like, would it be something that you're in politics, right? So would it be something that you would endorse to say, okay, men represent 50% of the population, women are 50% of the population. Let's elect 5 men, 5 women for council, for example.
Yeah. Or just that that I think at one point during the last council, not this time around, Kingston actually had more women than men. And that's okay. I mean, somebody actually once said, well, what if we had 10 women and 1 man? Well, what's wrong with that? We've often had 10 men rather, and 1 woman. So if we can live that way, what's wrong with the opposite? And people thought. So I did a little statistic analysis in the counties to see how we stood. And there are 31 councillors in the 6 counties. The 2 Glengarrys, 2 Stormonts, and the 2 Dundasses, and Cornwall being the 7th one. There are 31 men, and there are 10 women. So that's a third. Now, if I think if we were all in one big room, it would the 10 women would probably have a much greater effect. But in fact, it's not. It's like a council of 5, one of whom is a woman. So when you're one against that many more, your voice gets lost.
Yep.
And so I did a little bit further analysis. All the mayors are men. 2 deputy mayors are women. Now, the other 4 counties, their deputy mayors are men. So there's only 1 county in which 2 reps are women, and that's South Stormont. In every other one, there's only 1 woman representative. So it's really hard to get any kind of critical mass when you're so, you're diminished really in your voice.
Why do you think that is, though?
Sorry?
Why do you think that is? Is it,
maybe it's because women aren't running, but I think women aren't running. When you look at what's happening with some of the high profile women who have quit politics lately, like you take Catherine McKenna in Ottawa, with the toxic reaction that she was getting from the public. And I think the worst one, the one that really breaks my heart, is Jacinda Ardern. And, she just quit, and very abruptly. She just couldn't take it anymore. Threats against yourself, threats against your family. People don't do that to male politicians.
And I think the threats against the women are more vile. They're highly sexualized. They're more racist. It's not just, oh, you're an idiot. they
Yeah.
they really they threaten violence and rape and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
There was an article in the Citizen yesterday, an op-ed by Dr. Neely Kaplan-Murr. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's a member. She was elected to the Ottawa District School Board, but she's also an advocate for masking and vaccination in Ottawa, and an anti-poverty advocate. And she says that, and she started publishing what they're saying to her.
Yes.
She's a Jewish woman, and they're anti-Semitic, they're racist. They accuse her of homophobia. I don't know what her personal lifestyle is, but all these kinds of things that are really vile. And she just kind of, she's just saying, you're not going to stop me. I'm going to continue to do the work I need to do.
Yeah.
But, you can do that for a while. But like Jacinta, after 6-8 years of it, you're just worn down and you think, I've had it. I need to do something where I can see the good side of people and not just, be tracked by this. But, there's another one was the Inuit MP who left Ottawa after one term because she said she was so disrespected and felt that, she was made to believe that she doesn't belong. So she just, she just didn't run again. So there's, quite a bit of that in politics. And you do have to have a thick skin, but this is worse than a thick skin.
Yeah.
This is a, steel-plated armor.
Yeah.
That, that they're asking these women. And we need to have some kind of stuff with social media to stop this stuff. And because people are allowed to post without putting their name on it, to post anonymously, it's not going to work. I think they have to do a system where people have to stand behind what they say. No anonymous posts. They're verified as your name. And if you don't want to give your name, you're not put on.
Yeah. Well, that's the standard for letters to the editor. You must identify yourself or they won't print you.
But social media is too young, maybe a media to do that yet.
Well, I think the other thing is it's click based, right? They make money by people clicking. They get to show that they're advertisers, that they have X amount of people that are going through their ads and so on and so forth. So they don't really care. It's just money. So, and if the arena is a bit more toxic, sometimes it's even better for them because it just gets people inflamed. Unfortunately, the way that they deal, like I know Dr. Kaplan-Murr, I've read a lot of her stuff and I've seen, she does publish. She publishes the Unvarnished. This is what I got this morning. But the thing is that everything, all of the threats, it's the same sort of thing all the time. I'm going to rape you. I'm going to kill you, but I'm going to rape you. I'm going to, subject you to an abasement. I don't know how to put it, but
So, and that's why, I think we are seen as an easy target and easily intimidated. Therefore, they use these words to attack.
But it's, I don't know if I would call it easily intimidated. We're seen as, but we are intimidated, and there's a reality. I had done in my little article thing there, written out 50% in Canada, Canadian women have had, had sexual assault.
Sure.
So and if you've ever, I was raped when I was young, and it kind of it leaves a mark. So I can understand. It's not just that we're the appearance of it. We really are harassed,
vulnerable.
We are vulnerable. We are vulnerable. It's a reality. If you saw 50% of men had been sexually harassed or raped, I don't think that they would have the same powerful attitude.
Yeah.
Or they would have the, I'm carrying the my keys between my fingers routine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
don't know.
You know, you mentioned intimidation there, and I couldn't help but recall this. I was watching Melanie Jolie being questioned today. They had Melanie Jolie and I forget which other minister being questioned by this panel that's looking at Chinese interference in Canada's politics.
Yeah.
And Melanie Jolie, who is our Minister of Defense, and she's a very foreign affairs rather, and she has strength, but it's a quiet strength. And when she mentioned that she had spoken to somebody, basically reprimanded this person and refused their demands for a visa, she said she wasn't going to comply. And she said she described herself as looking this person in the eye when she said it. And one of the other politicians on the panel interrupted her, spoke over her, and said, "Oh, well, I bet he was really intimidated. What, you looked him in the eye?" Like just putting down what he had said. I was so insulted for her. And I hope that tomorrow when the discussions resume, that it starts with an apology to her. And he just
You know
put
one
her off.
politician that I thought was fun because she held her own was Kamala Harris. When I saw her
Yes.
in the
Shut up! I'm talking.
yeah, just like good for you. I mean, we don't. I
Yeah.
She's in the background right now, but
Yeah.
when they were going through the presidential and vice presidential debates,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
she did.
And you know, that's really great because racialized women, I think the attacks on them are double what it is on other women. And when it comes
Well,
to sorry.
I want to say something because we're talking about politics and running for politics, and are women running enough? Like, I honestly will say 100% that the only reason I am not running is because of all that we're talking about. Like, I don't have thick skin enough. I don't think I think I would crumble.
I don't think you
So-
would, Julie. I think you've got more strength than you realize.
Ah,
And you have to recognize that I personally think that some of these vile attacks, they come from the wing nuts in society. And we just can't let them dominate or regulate our lives. We have to kind of live in spite of them. And
No,
not,
but you can imagine though, after in the case of Jacinda Ardern, after years and years and years of hearing it, that it would take away your belief in humanity.
yeah, for sure.
After a while,
Yeah.
Yeah, it would weigh you down. But I mean, to me, if people are insulting and have to put other people down all the time, I just see them as being very insecure people themselves. That's the way I look at it.
Doesn't make them harmless, but and it doesn't excuse them.
No, it doesn't. But they're just insecure, so they've got to do that to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, we can all understand that part of it, but still, when it happens to you and it's day after day of attacks,
yeah,
at one point you break down.
Yeah.
And enough is enough, and I don't blame her. She's done her service. She's put in 8 years of governing her country, and she deserves better than attacks.
Yeah. I mean, it's like what women suffer sometimes in marriages, and they make up excuses for an abusive partner. They think they're going to make him whole, or he might think he's going to make her whole if he just endures and forgives. And it's just it's a downward spiral.
Yeah.
It takes intervention from professionals to fix a situation like that, if it's fixable. But suffering through it is just never a response.
No.
I'm curious to know if there's any men watching right now and what you think. Do you think we live in a men's world? That we would love to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
Comment in the comment box there.
Yeah, there is a guy in there. There is a male listening, but he's not saying anything.
Not saying anything. Do you think we live in a man's world? Oh yeah. Okay.
I think that obviously, when we were talking about this again before we went on air, is the idea is not to bash all men, right?
Mhm.
But when you look at the global, the amount of stuff that women have gone through, they have a right to turn around and go, "We're fed up."
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
it's valid. And when we turn around and we're talking about, we want equality, we don't want to erase men from the equation. Otherwise, equality means nothing. We just want
Mhm.
a parity with men.
Yeah.
And why
Mhm.
shouldn't we have it? Because, ultimately, I think the whole society in general does better. When women are doing well, they're contributing, they're happier, their kids are doing better, and those kids grow up to be happier human beings, male and female. So why would I've never understood the why would men or societies want to turn around and squash women down to the smallest, that they can be.
You
I
know,
don't get it.
yeah, Louise, I don't even think men, even those who might be participating in that, are aware of it. I think most men don't realize that the advantages they have over women. Most men, I don't think, are aware that women do the same job as they do for less money. And when they realize it, they're shocked.
Most of them won't believe the statistics when you tell them.
That's right. Yeah.
So we have a comment. It is certainly a man's world. There are spectrums of existence. What language is law written? What are the measurements of success? What are the means by which we achieve success and on what terms? Statistics indicate that a matriarch society fared
Yeah.
better than a male-led society.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting point. Why? But the thing is okay, they may fare better in what ways? Why? I wish the Facebook
Mhm.
user
Yeah.
was
Well,
on to say.
they say that those companies that actually have really aggressive affirmative action policies to the point where they have promoted women to the same extent they have men, or like their boardrooms are equally representative, that they do better financially, like they do better in the business world than a male-dominated company.
I think it's the same for any kind of equity-seeking group. It's better to have a diversity of opinion and a diversity of experience in order to serve, let's say, a company. You're serving your customers who come from all these diverse backgrounds. So it's better to have somebody say, "Oh, this is not a good idea because I think this group of people would view that as this."
Yeah.
Whereas maybe a heterogeneous white male group would not see that point of view. So I think maybe that's what the other reason I think is that women work more cooperatively generally. There's not the
Right.
competition and the a male kind of wanting to be. I sit on a lot of committees, and I find the committees that work best are the committees with women. They're willing to work together. They don't really care who gets the glory for something. They're not the ones maybe that are pushing to be in front of a picture for publicity or anything. They're usually joining a charity group or something to improve society,
Yeah.
not to improve their
Image.
CV for when they want to. That's just my impression for when they want to run for election or when they want to get a promotion in their business.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because in one of the interviews we did for, I'm going to do a shameless plug here. Our last edition of The Seeker is like all about women empowerment.
I
And one
saw
of
it
the
today,
people,
by the way. Good
yes,
work.
okay. Yeah, it's a great, we have like 29 different stories of local women, and we're really celebrating the unsung heroes. And one of the stories was asking a woman who's like higher in a higher position, and I was asking, what kind of obstacles and what was her relationship with men, and if she had difficulty piercing because of the situation with men and women, and she was saying that it's quite the opposite. She's never had any trouble with men in her work space. It was all women that were the issues. They were cutthroat, and they were like.
Mm,
So it's interesting that you say that,
mhm.
Louise. So I don't know.
That's not really been my experience. There's the odd person that will be, but I've been on lots of committees and groups and in leadership and non-leadership positions, and I have not really seen that. I usually see people who will, women will say, there's a job that nobody wants to do, whatever it is, and it's usually a woman that will volunteer to do it.
Yeah, my experience too, sitting on committees and boards and stuff. Like if there's a good representation of men and women, it works okay. But I was sitting on one committee one time that it has all old white men,
Oh,
and man, that just like I was like ignored, completely ignored,
You know,
sadly.
that film that Gabriel Riviere Reed did on women in politics last night, he featured Carrie Bear, who almost didn't run the second time. She had to be kind of talked into it because of her experiences in her first term in council. She was young and she was a woman. And obviously, there were people around the table who just didn't take her seriously, put her down, and ignored her. It was
Yeah, I know, maybe 15 years ago, I worked for the school board and I was a union representative for the school board. And I remember a young woman was working in HR, and she actually asked me one time when we were alone, she said, "Why do you think I'm not getting any respect? Is it because I'm young or because I'm a woman?"
Mm,
both.
And I had to say to her, "Well, honestly, I think it's both."
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know and she left that company and went to work for another company because she felt she wasn't getting the respect that her work deserved.
it's
I
curious.
don't know that young or old makes really much of a difference. I know that during the whole COVID thing, I was pretty vocal and I was pretty posting a lot on our website, and I wrote a bunch of editorials, and constantly I would be told, you're just a premenopausal woman, like your opinion does not matter. You're just menopausal. Miley and I both got that quite a few
Mhm.
times. It's like,
Oh yeah.
it's two menopausal women. I'm like, I'm not even that old.
And then when you're postmenopausal, when you become an older woman, you suffer the same hits that you do as a young woman. You're just not taking it seriously. Like,
Why do you think so many women for so many years dyed their hair?
exactly.
Because they
Yeah.
didn't want to appear older, and
Hmm.
that's maybe something we have to thank the pandemic for. A lot of women stopped dyeing their hair.
Yep. Me
Yeah.
included.
Yeah. Yeah. So, y- from your personal perspectives, where do you think women are still struggling today?
I think part of it is awareness. And there's nothing that interferes with your own sense of self and awareness of the world around you than simply being busy all day long. Like a lot of our lives are taken up with trivia, especially if we're running a house. So that, and I think teaching is another job that's just like running a house where it's a 24/7 job. You can never consider it finished because every little child there can always read better if you only worked harder.
Right.
Like there's some jobs, and I think running a house is a lot like teaching in that respect, that it's never good enough and you're never finished. There's always something else you have to do. And so to get to the headspace place where you can actually stop and think and reflect about your own life and your own role in society, that takes a certain amount of leisure time. Like introspection is a leisure activity. And if you're frantically busy all day long, running from the dishes to the housework to this to that, and then running off to work and picking up groceries or kids on the way home, it just interferes with your ability to really get a grasp
Yeah.
of.
Well, that's one of the nice things of getting older. Really. I never realized, I didn't, when I was younger, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get older.
Yeah.
But actually, it's wonderful. It's like how liberating. You get to think, you get to set your own agenda,
Yeah.
very different, very nice.
Can't wait to get there.
If only you knew then what you know now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really it is, and it's too bad that you can't you can never go back. But I think the thing is as you get older, is to try and talk to younger women so that they hopefully learn a bit from your experience and don't go through quite as much crap for nothing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So speaking of, oh, go ahead.
no, I was going to say definitely younger women think there's, their lives are so difficult and there's so much going on. And like you say, as you get older, you realize those things are not important. What a 15-year-old is going through right now on social media and school and this and that. As we get older, we realize that drama is not necessary.
Yeah, but I think when you're talking about teenagers, it's a very special kind of thing. It is drama for them. It's it's the first time they're going through X, Y, and Z. So yeah, it's not the same. I think when you get a little bit older. Here's what.
Elise, you want to read that comment?
So I think the challenge men have are on two fronts. On one potential front, there is a need for a male to be more aware of their emotions or lack thereof, and that requires work, awareness, and admittance. The second front, assumptively speaking, is admitting that strength or dominance or a demonstration of is not the only marker of success in every situation.
Keep it up for a second.
Yeah.
Because it's a I just want to read it again. Emotions. I think it's almost the same thing on both. They need to be aware of their emotions, and they need to,
Well, I think you look at, men maybe have traditionally said they have to win at all costs. And, I think now maybe what this person is saying is men have to realize that, okay, you may have won, but what did it cost you? Maybe it cost you that you had no time for your children.
Yeah.
There was a cost to that. Maybe it was your health,
Yeah, and maybe sometimes, what I got out of that statement was also that maybe there are different ways of handling things that don't require quite as much headbutting dominance, but men are capable of sensitivity and intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still that stigma being propagated still in the newer generations where guys have to be tough, and boys don't cry. I mean, we're still seeing it.
Men can't show emotions.
Yeah, and it's not healthy for them.
It's not
healthy for men.
Absolutely not. Yeah. So we were talking about teenagers and young women. So how do we educate young I can't even talk, young women, and how do we teach them to be strong and not let stuff bother them, comments bother them?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is the environment we create, and that's all of us in society, that we need women role models. So women have to step up and be the role models.
Yeah.
And we have to support women who attempt to achieve positions that will put them in a visible, prominent place. Because young women have to, first of all, see possibilities. And when you look around you, if you see all the leadership roles being exercised by men, that tells a girl something. Aim, but not too high, because you can't get there.
I think
so. Just throw this out. We say we should have more women in politics, but that means women have to vote for women in politics.
Well, women have to vote, period, Elaine.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah. Yeah. We tend to absorb. We have the attitudes of the common people, like they're universal attitudes that somehow the default is male. And if you need somebody to run the company, a man will do it better, and that sort of thing.
We still have, I've done elections in the last few years, and when you do calls, you still have women who say, "Oh, my husband will tell me how to vote. You
Yeah.
don't need to
Oh,
talk to me."
yeah.
You know,
I couldn't vote.
that
Yikes.
still happens
Yeah.
frequently.
Yikes.
wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
that I
and
would.
I guarantee you that, people who don't know the candidates necessarily very well, during any given election, if they go over there and they see, like, I'm referring more to municipal than, because there's no party, they would be more inclined to vote for a white old man than for a woman.
Yet,
Because
yet the last election,
Yeah.
the last election had 3 women come in first in the polls.
and that's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's fantastic. But why not the why
Yeah.
not the other one?
But
Yeah.
but I read everybody's statement. There weren't that many women. There
That's
just
right.
weren't.
Yeah, that's right. There weren't.
I mean, I think all the women that were running were voted in.
No,
No, there
was
were a
like
couple who
that were
didn't.
not.
Oh, that's right.
But
Yeah.
some of
But
them,
there
one
were
of
how
one of
many
the,
candidates? There was 27 candidates, I think,
yeah, I think
and
so.
5 women.
Only
So-
5. Oh my
And
gosh.
one of the women, was of the view that she was only there for the
It
one
was just
issue.
a cause, yeah,
I
Yeah.
know. Yes, I know. Okay, I know.
to
Yeah.
raise awareness to a cause.
And
So it's
that's
not,
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's fine, but most people will not vote for somebody who says they're only there for one issue.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can, it's fine to say you want to make awareness for it. That's fine, but you shouldn't expect to get elected.
no, and
That's my view.
I know who we're talking, but I don't think that she did expect to.
No,
I don't
she-
think that was.
No. But so maybe we only had 4 candidates.
Yeah. I think we had 4.
And
So-
3 got in.
that's still too little.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you, four ran and 3 got in.
Mhm.
What if 10 ran? Would 9 get in?
We have had years where we've had more than that run. And but the other thing is often women run once and they don't get in, they don't run again.
Right. 'Cause
Men will often keep running till they get in.
They don't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
Well,
Because your name
persistent
recognition
base.
grows with every loss.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
But I mean, maybe not that many women are running either because their lives are busy with other stuff like families and kids and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I know being a counselor takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So
Random time.
Yeah.
You can't even clock it. It's morning meetings.
Well, we
afternoon
do.
meetings, night meetings.
Yeah, that we do have a section of our population that's in that age group but there's also single women. There are women who are in their 50s
mhm.
where the childcare responsibilities lessen.
Yeah.
So, we still have a lot of women who would be good candidates to run.
Yes. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
It would be really nice to see more women, period, in politics.
Yeah.
Like a lot more.
And
Oh, sorry. I'm just seeing we have a comment here.
The more women that are present in a particular space, the more that space is normalized.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Absolutely.
maybe a lot of women also don't have the funds because it does cost some money to run a successful election campaign.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Signs
but
are
the-
very expensive.
That can be a barrier.
who pays for the men? Do they pay for their own?
Well,
Everybody.
men generally earn more money,
Yeah.
and
Fair enough.
Yeah.
those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. A stay-at-home mom does not have
The same.
money to buy
Yeah. Finances.
resources.
I tried
It-
talking to a few women to get them to run this time. I do that every election. And I
Mhm.
thought I had one person at least ready to put her name on a ballot, but she didn't. I'll try.
What was the reason that they didn't though?
Well,
what were the
she
reasons?
actually, I thought she was going to. Like, she didn't commit to me, but she said, yeah, her kids thought it was okay and she was tempted. And I thought, great. But
Well, we know that you inspired many women.
Mhm.
None other than Bernadette Clement, who's always raving that
I know she does. Yeah, she always gives me credit. And Brian
you
Lynch.
paved the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. it's good. It's great to have mentors as well, because
Yeah.
we need to be mentored
It would
into.
be super. Just, I mean, here's 5 of us. What if we all had our names on ballots next time? We could,
Geez.
we'd
Louise,
you'd flood the ballot, you know?
Well,
Louise and Louise.
No. It's, people think I really love politics, but I don't really. I just do it because I think it's a necessary thing.
yeah.
It's needed in our society. People have to be aware of it, and you have to, I prefer to help people achieve, their goals and work towards it. And I try to, many women that I meet that I think would be good leaders, I try to encourage them.
Yeah. What about men? What do men and young men? What do we need to teach them, and how can we get them understanding that gender parity in all kinds of ways is good for them? Like, why because they don't get it, and how do we get them to get it?
Well, I guess I'm going to start by answering that by thinking of, I visualized older men with women. So many older men, and I've experienced this, talk at you, they talk down to you. So that must start when they're young men. So if we can just make young men listen to their sisters or their classmates the same way they would listen to guys, because I tell you, when you're in any kind of a situation, social situation, you get more men who will tell you what's right than women, like who will tell you just the way the world works. They will be the authorities. Women don't do that.
We're talking about mansplaining, right?
Oh, yes.
Mansplaining.
Yeah, that's a brilliant term.
I
It
like
is a-
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It cracked me up when I first heard it.
yeah.
But okay, so but how do you get, it's
Oh,
how do you get a guy to see, unless you turn around and you take, okay, I'm going to film you, I'm going to film you now, and you're going to see what you sound like. It really,
I
because,
think I had 3 sons, right?
right,
And
okay.
I think what I did right was talk to them and say, what about women's issues? This isn't fair. Look how they're treating that woman on that show, and you just, kind of trying to make them aware of it. And by example, I did my own career. I had my own career, and my spouse didn't tell me what to do with my career. And we had this comment, somebody said to me, well, aren't you telling your husband he should retire? And I was like, no, he never told me what to do in my career. I'm not telling him what to do in his career, right?
Right.
So just by maybe modeling respect and, and talking about things that you see, like the politicians, the soccer team, the situation in Afghanistan and Iran, talking about those things, maybe that builds awareness.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
And,
humor is good.
humor is good for sure. The message goes.
Yeah, if you can, do a little bit of, showing the situation and turning the tables. I mean, I've seen stuff, just even stuff on Facebook, where they, comments that you would hear directed at women, and you flip it. It's very interesting to sort of go, even, the one that I thought was a scream, that is some of these guys, and because women have a tendency sometimes to, oh, I've got this and there's this problem, my cellulite, my this, my that, and they did an ad where they had a bunch of guys doing it, and they were all talking about
That
their
would be
body
funny.
issues, and it was hysterical. So maybe
And I was going to say also, when you see those older men down talking to women, or I think we need to really call it. We need to call it when we see it.
Yeah.
We need, because there's also, this is a whole different generation that does not necessarily know that what they're doing is wrong. They don't. They're just they grew up
They're
that
used
way.
to it. Yeah, they're
They're
used to it.
So, a woman is in the kitchen. That's their way of thinking. So when you call it, you need to politely, call it.
Yeah.
Well, what I see with older, because I see thinking of somebody in particular right now, but I see older guys who are they're so accustomed to being, am I frozen?
No,
No.
Authority.
Oh,
no,
okay.
you're good.
I'm frozen on my own screen. Anyways, they're so accustomed to being, what I say is the last word, it's the reality. And I'm thinking of one person that comes across with me kind of crusty, and I just throw it back at him, but I have a smile on my face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he ends up laughing at himself. He gets it.
So you're
Yeah.
talking about those it's my way or the highway kind of guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just guys that will turn around and it's
Yeah.
not even that heavy. It's just I've spoken.
Yeah, just the mansplaining thing. Just
Yeah.
Yeah, mansplaining, and I know best.
Yeah, the last
Yeah.
time that I was subjected to that, which wasn't that long ago, I actually talked back and interrupted a couple times, and I thought, I'm sure I presented myself as an extremely rude person, but there's a virtue in leaning in and taking up space. Don't let somebody shrink your space.
Yeah.
They don't apologize for it. Why should we?
Yeah, exactly. I heard Bernadette talking about this. She came and she spoke to people at St. John's Church, and there was an open invitation. So I went, and she said that this was something that, as a Black woman, it was hard for her to do, but she had been encouraged to start taking up space, that all Black people have to start taking up space. You can't let the rest of the world diminish you. So I think she's made a conscious decision that she'll be more assertive. And I think as women, we have to be more assertive. Take up more space. Lean in.
Good advice.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you.
Well,
Right.
guys, it's already 8:00. So I think we're going to end the show now. I want to thank you both for being with us tonight, having this discussion.
Thanks for having us.
We hope you enjoyed yourself as much as we enjoyed having you.
Yeah.
And for the rest of you, I guess we'll see you in a month for our next community action talk.
Okay.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.